Good morning. Happy day 29. So yesterday was my day 28 at completing the bread habit. Bazinga. And I want to talk to you today about chapter 20 from Atomic Habits. So chapter 20 goes into talking about the downside of creating good habits. What could the downside be, you say, Jeff? So habits are the foundation of mastery. In fact, habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. So when you know that those simple movements that you're doing so well that you can perform them without even thinking about it, that's when you've started to attain mastery of a topic. There's a saying out there that once you've had 10,000 hours, you become a master. And we're working to develop habits faster than 10,000 hours, and yet mastery continues after the habit is formed. So again, what could the downside be of mastery? Well, a lot of times as we're working to attain a habit, we will be working to improve and improve and improve and get better. We've talked a lot about that over this past month. And in order to retain interest, you make it just a little bit more challenging, bit after bit after bit. You might start with a 5-minute exercise, and that continues to 10, and then 15, and then 30, and before you know it, you're doing an hour. And so as you are performing these actions and getting better, and then once you hit that habit level, a lot of times we stop trying to improve. In fact, because it's reached that level of automation, we will continue to go ahead and perform that action. And because we're not trying to improve, we actually start to see our levels degrade. Now, that's not always a problem, right? Like, you're not going to get much worse at brushing your teeth or making that cup of coffee or drinking a cup of water in the morning. And in certain areas, it just doesn't make much of a difference. In others, though, if you're a doctor and you practice that first incision, or if you're a pro athlete or just an athlete in general, you can continue as it goes down. If you continue with that wrong behavior or that slightly declined behavior, that declined behavior becomes a habit. You can actually enforce bad behavior the more you practice it incorrectly. And, we see, basketball players, they when they're first learning how to play, they're practicing their dribble until they can dribble without ever having to worry about it. And then they go into learning how to do the layups, and then how to hit consistent three-pointers or even free throws. So you start with the basics and you layer on new habits until you can improve overall and your ability in that topic. Chess players, same thing, right? Like they first have to internalize just the basic moves of each of the pieces. And then they can learn after the basic moves how to castle or the Queen's Gambit or some of the other traps that I've got no idea how to do. I just know they exist. So after one habit has been mastered, that's when we move on to the next. Mastery is the process of narrowing down your focus and zoning in on small elements and making that small element successful. So why am I in front of a whiteboard today? Well, as part of that, a lot of times you'll see that with a habit, we're going to call this your automation. And down here are the skill level that you're working on, okay? So what we find a lot of times is as you are working on developing that skill and developing it to become automatic, you will see that you are climbing up. And then you hit a point, we're going to call it the habit line. And we're calling it the habit line because that's what James Clear calls it in his book. You hit that point where you reach that habit line, you may get a little better over that habit line, but then it starts to peak off. All right? So how do we avoid that? How do we continue to improve and overlook the downside of that habit in order to make sure that we don't degrade and actually continue on the path towards mastery? I mentioned it just a little bit ago with the basketball and the chess stars, right? So what we would do then is now we have our auto, And we have our skills. And as you go to climb, I just realized that I was writing the wrong word at the bottom. This isn't skills. And I apologize, but I'm not going to go back and retake because life is full of unexpected outcomes and we need to live through the imperfections, right? So this is actually the number of frequencies that you go through. So the more frequencies, the closer you get to becoming a habit. Felt wrong when I wrote it the first time and I didn't realize why I messed up. So here we go. So habit line. You hit that peak on the habit line. Well, let's pretend this is chess. These are our basic moves. Once we've learned those basic moves, now we can go into a set of more complex moves until we know exactly when to layer in those castling procedures. And we hit a new habit line, a new peak. And then we go out and we learn some new moves. We're building all of this on a foundation, and yet we're achieving much greater results because we go out there and after we focused on building on these models, we go out there and we have somebody help teach us new methods to have those breakthrough moments. And as we focus more on those breakthrough moments, we're again going to hit a level of achievement, a ceiling of achievement, and we're going to break through those again. What's really interesting is this is also something that I teach in business classes as a One Thing coach in the One Thing book. This is called Moving from E to P, Entrepreneurial to Purposeful. And it goes along with increasing your business performance, increasing your work performance, increasing your personal performance, your habit performance. All of these come from working on a solid foundation of learning and then building up and moving to the next level. So here's the big question, Jeff. How do I know if I've degraded, downgraded, if I'm moving downwards, or if I'm maintaining a good level? Where do I know? When do I know when I should move up? Well, that's for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about establishing a system for review. Setting up a way for you to evaluate yourself in order to know how you're doing. One of those, again, is adding on new habits. So when you feel as if you've reached an automation, then you can add on a new habit and start going up from there. I talked in the very first video about how I started with pizza as a break for me, just on this particular habit chain. I knew that if I couldn't break pizza, there was no way I was going to avoid bread. And so I first broke the habit of eating pizza multiple times a week in order to then approach building a habit of quitting bread. And again, big mindset victories for me as I'm going. I mean, it's been it has been 4 weeks now. Jesus, it was day 29, 4 weeks of not having any bread. And we're going to continue to go from here. What's that next step for me? I don't know. Maybe it's all pastas and rice. That would be really sad again. And we know that just, again, mindset-wise, getting out of that, knowing that I am a healthy eater is my reframe. So what's your reframe? What's that next habit for you? How can you evaluate to make sure you're not degrading? More on that tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. See you then.